The message arrived at Harmony Prime at exactly 1432 Galactic Standard Time. Ambassador Zek Thara stared at the holographic display, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he read the words again. The text was simple and direct, written in basic galactic common tongue. The human species formally rejects all diplomatic contact with the Galactic Council. We decline membership. We request no further communication. Zekathara's clawed hands trembled as he forwarded the message to the High Council chambers. In 3,000 years of galactic politics, no species had ever rejected their invitation. The Galactic Council was the supreme authority in known space. Every intelligent race eventually joined their ranks. It was the natural order of things. The massive council chamber filled with noise as representatives from hundreds of worlds read the human response. Counselor Vrex of the Silicon World stood up, his metallic voice cutting through the chatter. This is impossible. No species refuses us. They must be confused. Perhaps they do not understand the benefits of membership, suggested Ambassador Krell from the Water Worlds. Her tentacles waved nervously in the artificial current of her tank. High Counselor Velteran raised his massive form from the central seat. The ancient being had overseen first contact with over 50 species. His voice boomed across the chamber. Send another message. Explain the advantages. They will change their minds. Meanwhile, in a small star system humans called Sol 3, Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Liberty's Edge. The converted mining ship was not impressive to look at, but it had become humanity's unofficial flagship for dealing with alien contact. Jake was a tall man with graying hair and tired eyes. He had served in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years before aliens made contact. Now he found himself representing his entire species in the most important decision humanity had ever made. Captain Rodriguez, are all the colony worlds in agreement? Jake asked. Lisa Rodriguez looked up from her communication console. She was younger than Jake, with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her fingers moved quickly over the holographic controls as reports came in from human settlements across 12 star systems. New Terra confirms their vote. Mars Colony agrees. The asteroid mining stations all say no to the Council. Even the research outpost at Alpha Centauri refuses membership, Lisa reported. The vote is unanimous, Commander. Humanity rejects the Galactic Council. Jake nodded slowly. The decision had not been easy. For 6 months, human leaders had studied everything they could learn about the Galactic Council. What they discovered made them uncomfortable. Dr. Kevin Park entered the bridge carrying a thick data tablet. The xenobiologist was one of the smartest humans alive, and his research had shaped humanity's response to alien contact. Commander, I have the final analysis ready, Kevin said. His voice was steady, but Jake could see worry in the scientist's eyes. Tell me again, Doctor. Make it simple. Kevin activated his tablet, showing holographic charts and data streams. Every species that joins the Galactic Council becomes dependent on them within 50 years. They provide advanced technology, but at a cost. Member species stop developing their own science. They stop making their own choices. You mean they become slaves, Jake said. Not exactly slaves. More like children who never grow up. The Council makes all the important decisions. Member species just follow orders and feel grateful for the privilege. Lisa looked up from her station. The pattern is clear in their history. Files. Strong, independent civilizations become weak followers after joining. None of them seem to realize what happened to them. Jake walked to the main view screen, looking out at the stars. Earth hung in space before them, blue and white and beautiful. Humanity had only reached the stars 50 years ago. They were still young and wild and free. Sir, we have another message from the Council, Lisa announced. The holographic display showed a new text from Ambassador Zekthera. This one was longer and more detailed. It promised advanced medicine that could extend human life by centuries. It offered technology that could turn dead worlds into gardens. It spoke of protection from hostile alien races and membership in the greatest civilization in the galaxy. Jake read it twice, then deleted it. Send our response, he ordered. Lisa's fingers flew over her controls. The message was even shorter than the first one. No. Final answer. On Harmony Prime, chaos erupted. In the council chambers, Ambassador Zekthara stood before the High Council, his usually perfect composure cracking. They refuse again. They will not even negotiate. Councillor Vrex's metallic form sparked with electrical discharges that showed his agitation. This is unacceptable. No species has the right to refuse galactic civilization. Perhaps we should study them more carefully, suggested Ambassador Krell. There may be something different about these humans. High Councillor Veltaran's ancient mind worked quickly. In all his centuries of life, he had never encountered resistance like this. Every other species had jumped at the chance to join galactic society. They had been eager to trade their independence for security and advanced technology. Summon the Intelligence Division, Veltaran commanded. I want to know everything about these humans. Why are they different? What makes them resist our offer? The meeting continued for hours. Some council members suggested using force to bring humanity into line. Others wanted to isolate human space and let them struggle alone. A few even wondered if humans might have a point about independence. Back on Liberty's Edge, Jake Morrison received reports from human intelligence networks. They had been watching the council's reaction carefully. Sir, they are panicking, reported Lieutenant Sam Cooper from the intelligence station. Communications traffic around Harmony Prime has increased by 300%. They are calling emergency meetings on every major council world. Admiral Nancy Brooks appeared on the main screen via secure transmission from Earth. The silver-haired woman had commanded Earth's defenses since first contact with aliens. Well done, Commander Morrison. Our decision has them confused and angry. That tells us we made the right choice. What happens now, Admiral? Jake asked. Nancy's expression grew serious. Now we prepare for what comes next. They will not accept our refusal forever. Sooner or later, they will try to force us to join them. And if they do, then they will discover that humans do not force easily. The transmission ended, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts. Through the view screen, he could see Earth turning slowly in space. Somewhere down there, billions of humans were going about their daily lives, unaware that their representatives had just made the most dangerous decision in human history. But Jake felt no regret. Freedom was worth any price, even if that price might be war with the most powerful force in the galaxy. Humanity would stand alone if necessary. They would remain free. 3 months passed after humanity's second rejection. The Galactic Council had tried everything short of force. They sent gifts of advanced technology, which humans politely returned. They offered trade agreements that would make human worlds rich beyond imagination. The humans said no thank you and closed the communication channels. General Thekmore stood on the bridge of his flagship, Righteous Purpose. The massive vessel led a fleet of 200 council ships toward human space. The general was a veteran of many peacekeeping missions, though none had ever involved actually keeping peace. Sir, we are approaching the outer edge of human territory, reported his communications officer. Thekmore nodded his scaled head. The mission orders were clear. Surround human worlds with overwhelming force. Show them the power of the Council. Make them understand that resistance was pointless. Every species eventually learned this lesson. Take positions around their major colonies. Do not fire unless fired upon. We are here to protect them from their own foolish choices. Captain Steve Hughes guided his small reconnaissance ship through the asteroid field near Kepler Station. The human outpost was one of 12 major settlements scattered across their territory. Steve had volunteered for this dangerous job because someone needed to watch the aliens. Through his ship's sensors, Steve could see the Council fleet taking positions around every human world. The alien ships were huge and impressive, bristling with weapons that could crack planets, but they held their fire and simply waited. This is Hughes to Titan Base. Steve spoke into his communicator. The aliens have us surrounded, but they are not attacking yet. Colonel Amy Watson's voice crackled back through the static. Understood, Captain. Keep watching and report any changes. Do not engage unless they fire first. Amy sat in the hidden command center built deep inside Saturn's moon Titan. The facility had been constructed in secret after first contact with the Council. If humanity was going to remain free, They needed safe places to coordinate their defense. The walls of the command center were covered with displays showing the positions of council ships throughout human space. Red dots marked alien vessels, while blue dots showed human positions. There were a lot more red dots than blue ones. Dr. Helen Morris worked frantically in her laboratory aboard Deep Horizon Research Station. The facility orbited in the empty space between star systems hidden from alien sensors. Helen had been studying captured council technology for months, trying to understand how their society really worked. "Lieutenant Carter, you need to see this." Helen called to her military. Escort Ben Carter was a Marine assigned to protect the research station. He was young and tough, with the kind of face that never showed fear even when he felt it. Ben looked at the strange device Helen had been examining. "What is it, Doc?" Helen pointed to the small metallic object on her workbench. "I found this inside a piece of council equipment. It is some kind of neural regulator, a device that affects brain function." "What does it do?" "It makes beings easier to control, less aggressive, more willing to follow orders without questioning them." Helen's voice was grim. "Ben, I think every council member species has these implants in their heads." Ben stared at the device. "You mean they are all being controlled?" "Not controlled exactly. The implants do not turn them into robots, but they make them happy to let others make decisions for them. They lose the desire to think for themselves." The implications hit Ben like a physical blow. "That is why they want us to join, not to help us, but to control us. And that is why we can refuse them," Helen continued. "Humans do not have these implants. We still have our natural aggression and independence." Meanwhile, human ships began appearing in council space. These were not military vessels, but small civilian craft that slipped past council patrols. Captain Danny Walsh commanded one such ship, a converted cargo hauler called Free Spirit. Danny's mission was simple but dangerous. Broadcast messages to the enslaved species of the council, telling them the truth about their situation. Most aliens could not hear these messages clearly because of their neural implants, but some began to listen. "This is Captain Walsh broadcasting on all frequencies." Danny spoke into his communicator as his ship hid in the shadow of an asteroid. "Citizens of the galaxy, you are being lied to. The devices in your heads are not medical implants. They are control mechanisms designed to make you obedient." The response was swift and violent. Council patrol ships appeared from 3 directions, their weapons charging. Danny barely escaped, his ship's hull glowing red from near misses. But the message had been heard. On 17 different worlds, beings began asking questions about the small scars behind their ears. Some even tried to remove their implants, though most lacked the medical knowledge to do so safely. Ambassador Zekathara stood before the High Council once again, but this time he was not alone. Reports flowed in from across council space about strange human broadcasts and growing unrest among member species. "The humans are spreading lies and discord," Zekathara reported. "Some of our member species are beginning to question their loyalty to the council." Councillor Vrex's metallic form sparked with anger. "This is exactly what we feared. The humans are a disease that will spread if we do not stop them." "What do you recommend?" asked High Councillor Veltarin. "Quarantine," Vrex replied without hesitation. "Seal off human space completely. Let no ship in or out. If they will not join us willingly, we will leave them to die alone." But Ambassador Krell disagreed, her tentacles writhing in agitation. "Isolation will not work. The humans are already inside our territory, spreading their poison. We need a more direct solution." The debate continued for hours. Some council members wanted immediate military action. Others preferred economic pressure or biological warfare. The one thing they all agreed on was that humanity had become a threat to the established order. Dr. Kevin Park worked around the clock in his laboratory on New Terra, humanity's newest colony world. The information Dr. Morris had discovered about neural implants had reached him through secure channels. Now Kevin was trying to develop a way to safely remove the devices from willing aliens. "The procedure is delicate," Kevin explained to Admiral Nancy Brooks via secure communication. "The implants are connected directly to the brainstem, Remove them wrong and the patient dies. But it can be done? Nancy asked. Yes, but we need living subjects to practice on. Volunteers from council species who want to be free. I will see. What can be arranged, Nancy promised. The conversation was interrupted by urgent alerts from the monitoring stations. Captain Steve Hughes's voice came through the speakers, tense with excitement. All stations, this is Hughes. The council fleet is moving. Repeat, the aliens are moving toward our worlds. Amy Watson's voice cut through the chatter from Titan Base. All human forces go to alert status. This is not a drill. Prepare for possible attack. On the Bridge of Righteous Purpose, General Thekmore received new orders from the High Council. The message was brief and direct. Demonstrate the consequences of defying the Council. Target one human settlement. Destroy it completely. Show them what happens to those who refuse galactic civilization. Thekmore hesitated for the first time in his long military career. The order violated everything the Council claimed to stand for. They were supposed to be protectors, not destroyers. But the neural implant in his brain made questioning orders difficult and painful. Sir, which target should we select? Asked his weapons officer. Thekmore looked at the tactical display, showing human settlements throughout local space. Each red dot represented thousands or millions of human lives. The general's training told him to pick the smallest target to minimize casualties. His implant told him to obey without question. Target the mining station at Asteroid Belt 7, Thekmore finally ordered. It has the smallest population. The Council fleet began moving toward their target, weapons charging for humanity's first taste of galactic justice. But they had made one crucial mistake in their planning. They assumed humans would react like every other species they had encountered. They expected fear, surrender, and pleas for mercy. They were about to discover that humans were very different from other species, and that difference was about to change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The Council's Planet Cracker fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Admiral Corvash commanded the massive armada from his flagship, Eternal Judgment. The ship was over 10 kilometers long and carried weapons capable of turning worlds into space dust. Signal all ships, Corvash commanded. Maintain formation and advance toward the third planet. We will show these humans what happens when a species defies the natural order. The alien admiral was confident in his mission. Humans had rejected galactic civilization twice, spread lies about neural implants, and encouraged rebellion among loyal council species. The only solution was complete destruction of their homeworld. On Earth, President Mary Johnson stood at the podium in the United Nations building. The leaders of every nation sat before her, their faces grim with the knowledge of what was coming. Outside, billions of humans went about their daily lives, most unaware that alien warships were approaching their world. My fellow humans, Mary began, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Today we face the greatest challenge in our species' history. The Galactic Council has sent a fleet to destroy our world because we refuse to surrender our freedom. The assembly hall was silent except for the quiet hum of recording devices. Mary's words would reach every corner of Earth within minutes. We have prepared for this day. Our ancestors fought for freedom against impossible odds. Today we follow their example. We will not kneel. We will not surrender. We will show the galaxy what humans are made of. In a hidden bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Chris Thompson activated the Terra Defense Protocol. Systems that had been built in secret for the past 5 years came online around the planet. Massive energy generators hidden in ocean trenches began powering defensive shields. Weapon platforms disguised as communication satellites revealed their true purpose. All defense stations report ready, announced Captain Pete Williams from the Central Command Post. Energy shields at full power, weapon systems armed and tracking incoming targets. Chris nodded grimly. Earth's defenses were impressive, but they had never been tested against alien technology. Today would prove whether human engineering could stand against the galaxy's most powerful weapons. In the shadow of Jupiter, engineer Paul Adams made final checks on humanity's secret weapon. The ship was called Defiance, and it represented 5 years of desperate engineering work. Human scientists had reverse-engineered captured Council technology and combined it with their own innovations. Reactor core stable, reported Chief Engineer Linda Scott. All systems green. We are ready for launch. Paul looked through the observation window at Earth, barely visible as a tiny dot in the distance. His ship was not designed to fight the Council fleet directly. Its mission was far more ambitious and dangerous. Take us out, Paul ordered. Engage stealth systems and set course for Council space. It is time to free some slaves. Dr. Susan Clark worked frantically aboard the mobile research platform Freedom 1. Her team had successfully developed a safe method for removing neural implants from willing aliens. The procedure was delicate and required precise equipment, but it worked. Patient 17 is stable, reported Dr. Mike Torres. Implant removal successful. Full brain function restored. Susan looked at their latest patient, a Vorthak engineer who had volunteered for the experimental surgery. For the first time in his adult life, the alien was thinking clearly without Council influence. The change was dramatic and immediate. I can see it now, the Vorthak whispered, his multiple eyes wide with wonder. The control, the manipulation, the lies. How did we not notice? The implants made you happy to be controlled, Susan explained gently. Your people are not weak. You were simply prevented from being strong. Word of the successful procedure spread quickly through underground networks. Aliens across dozens of worlds began seeking out human medical teams, desperate to be free of their mental chains. Each successful surgery created another voice spreading the truth about Council control. The Council's planet Cracker fleet reached Mars orbit and found their path blocked. Human ships appeared from hidden positions throughout the solar system, outnumbered but determined. Admiral Korvash stared at his tactical display in disbelief. How many vessels do they have? He demanded. Sensors detect over 300 human ships, sir, reported his tactical officer. Most appear to be converted civilian craft. Korvash laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Miners and cargo haulers against the finest warships in the galaxy? This will be over quickly. The alien admiral ordered his fleet to attack, confident that human resistance would crumble at the first show of overwhelming force. Council weapons fired, sending devastating energy beams toward the defending human ships. But the humans did not break and run as expected. Instead, they accelerated toward the much larger alien vessels, dodging weapons fire with impossible skill. Human ships darted between the massive Council dreadnoughts like angry insects, targeting critical systems with surgical precision. Sir, we are taking damage, reported the tactical officer, his voice confused. Human weapons are more effective than predicted. On Earth, the planet Cracker fleet's main guns began firing at the planet itself. Massive energy beams struck Earth's atmosphere, expecting to burn through to the surface below. Instead, the beams met invisible barriers that absorbed and redirected their power harmlessly into space. Impossible, Korvash snarled. No primitive species should have shield technology that advanced. The battle raged for hours. Human ships continued their hit-and-run attacks, slowly whittling down the alien fleet's numbers. More importantly, they broadcast messages on all frequencies, telling the story of neural implants and Council control to anyone willing to listen. Captain Danny Walsh piloted his ship Free Spirit through the chaos of the battle, dodging Council fire while transmitting human intelligence data to rebel groups throughout the galaxy. His broadcast reached enslaved populations on hundreds of worlds, fanning the flames of revolution. Meanwhile, Paul Adams and his ship Defiance slipped unnoticed into Council space. Their destination was Harmony Prime, the Council's capital station. If they could reach the central computer core and upload Susan Clark's implant removal data, every enslaved being in the galaxy would have access to the procedure. Approaching target, reported Navigator Carol Smith. Council security forces are focused on the Earth battle. We should be able to reach the station undetected. But their mission was discovered when they were only minutes away from their target. Council security ships surrounded Defiance, demanding surrender. Paul made a decision that would change galactic history. This is Captain Adams of the human vessel Defiance, he broadcast on all frequencies. We carry medical data that can free every enslaved mind in Council space. Our mission is not conquest, but liberation. The message reached rebel cells throughout the galaxy at the same moment. Beings who had been secretly questioning their loyalty to the Council finally had proof that freedom was possible. Uprisings began on 17 worlds simultaneously. On Harmony Prime, Ambassador Zek Thara watched his civilization crumble in real time. Reports flooded in from across Council territory. Member species were removing their implants and declaring independence. The carefully maintained order of 3,000 years was collapsing. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked his aide, a young Forthak whose own implant had begun to malfunction from stress. Zekthara stared at the tactical displays showing rebellion, spreading like wildfire across the galaxy. For the first time in his life, he began to question whether the Council's way was truly right. "I do not know," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. Back at Earth, Admiral Korvash realized his fleet was losing the battle against supposedly primitive humans. Worse, his own crew members were beginning to act strangely as reports of implant removal reached them. Some were even asking questions about the devices in their own heads. "Admiral, perhaps we should withdraw and reassess the situation," suggested his tactical officer. Korvash turned to stare at the officer in shock. In all his years of service, no subordinate had ever questioned his orders. The neural implant was supposed to prevent such behavior. "What did you say?" Korvash demanded. "I said maybe we should retreat, sir. This battle is not going as planned." For the first time in decades, Korvash felt doubt creep into his mind. The certainty provided by his neural implant was fading, replaced by uncomfortable questions about the mission and the Council's true purposes. The battle for Earth had become more than a military conflict. It was a war for the minds and souls of every thinking being in the galaxy. And humanity was winning. 6 months after the failed attack on Earth, the galaxy was in chaos. What had started as human resistance had become a full-scale liberation war. Captain Tony Miller stood on the bridge of his ship, Liberator, watching as another Council processing facility burned in space. "Target destroyed, sir," reported Weapons Officer Jane Cooper. "All enslaved beings evacuated safely." Tony nodded with satisfaction. This was the 15th facility his task force had hit this month. Each successful mission freed hundreds of newly contacted species before they could receive their neural implants. The rescued aliens joined the growing Liberation Alliance, adding their knowledge and technology to the human cause. Commander Rachel Stone coordinated the liberation efforts from her flagship, New Dawn. The former Earth Navy officer now commanded a fleet of over 2,000 ships representing 43 different species. Her main display showed the current state of the Galactic War. "Status report," Rachel ordered as she entered the command center. Lieutenant Scott Davis, a human intelligence officer, pointed to the holographic map floating in the center of the room. Blue zones showed areas under Alliance control, while red indicated Council territory. The map was changing rapidly as more systems declared independence. "The Rigel sector just voted to join us," Scott reported. "That brings our total to 67 star systems. The Council now controls less than half their original territory." Rachel smiled grimly. The war was going better than anyone had dared hope, but the cost in lives was enormous. Every day brought news of battles fought and lives lost in the struggle for freedom. On the Council homeworld of Veltar, panic gripped the government. High Counselor Veltaran had not left his private chambers in weeks, unable to face the reality of his crumbling empire. The ancient being who had ruled the galaxy for centuries now cowered behind energy shields as rebel fleets approached his world. "Sir, the Liberation Alliance demands your surrender," reported his aide, a nervous Krell whose own implant had been removed months earlier. "They promise fair treatment if you cooperate." Veltaran's massive form shook with rage. "Fair treatment? I am the rightful ruler of this galaxy. These rebels are criminals who must be crushed." But even as he spoke the words, Veltaran knew his cause was lost. Too many species had discovered the truth about their enslavement. The neural implants that had kept them obedient for millennia were failing as knowledge of their removal spread. Sergeant Mike Johnson led his ground forces through the corridors of Processing Center Alpha 7. The massive space station had been built to handle newly contacted species, fitting them with neural implants before they could understand what was happening to them. "Clear left," called Private Rosa Martinez as she checked the side passages. No resistance. Mike's team had expected heavy fighting, but the facility was nearly empty. Most of the council staff had fled when the Liberation Alliance arrived. Only a few automated systems continued the grim work of preparing aliens for mental slavery. "Found them," called Corporal Dave Wilson from deeper in the station. Over 300 beings in holding cells. Mixed species, all scheduled for implantation tomorrow. Mike rushed to see the prisoners. They were from a dozen different worlds, all recently contacted by council scouts. Their eyes held the fear and confusion of beings who did not understand what was happening to them. "You are free," Mike announced in basic galactic common. "The Humans and Liberation Alliance have come to rescue you." The response was immediate and emotional. Beings who had thought they were doomed to slavery wept with relief. Some fell to their knees in gratitude, others simply stared in disbelief that anyone would risk their lives to save strangers. Dr. Jennifer Lee had become the galaxy's leading expert on neural implant removal. Her medical teams operated mobile surgical units that traveled from world to world, freeing enslaved populations one patient at a time. The work was dangerous and exhausting, but the results made every risk worthwhile. Patient recovery rate is now at 96%, Jennifer reported to the Alliance Command during a secure communication session. "We have successfully removed implants from over 2 million beings across 87 worlds." The number was impressive, but it represented only a tiny fraction of the galaxy's enslaved population. Billions more still lived under council control, their minds clouded by the devices in their heads. "Doctor, we are receiving requests for surgery faster than we can handle them," reported Dr. Alan Foster from the field hospital on Kepler Prime. "Entire populations want their implants removed immediately." Jennifer understood their desperation. The newly freed aliens described their previous existence as living in a fog, unable to think clearly or make independent decisions. The contrast between mental slavery and freedom was so dramatic that most could not believe they had ever accepted their condition. The war reached a turning point when the Silicon Confederation announced their withdrawal from the Council. The ancient machine intelligences had been among the founding members of the galactic government, but even they had eventually been fitted with control devices. "We declare our independence from the Galactic Council," announced Prime Logic Unit 01 from the Silicon homeworld. "Our analysis indicates that organic and artificial minds alike deserve freedom from external control." The Silicon worlds brought advanced technology and manufacturing capability to the Liberation Alliance. Their robotic factories began producing medical equipment for implant removal on a massive scale. Within weeks, the surgical procedure that had once taken hours could be completed in minutes. Council resistance began to crumble as their own forces turned against them. Admiral Korvash, whose fleet had failed to destroy Earth, now led a rebellion within the Council Navy. Ships that had once enforced galactic order now protected refugee convoys fleeing Council space. "All vessels, this is Admiral Korvash," the alien commander broadcast to his fleet. "I have seen the truth about our enslavement. Any ship wishing to join the Liberation Alliance is welcome. Those who choose to remain loyal to the Council will not be harmed, but neither will we serve them any longer." The response was overwhelming. 3/4 of the Council Navy defected within days, bringing their advanced warships and experienced crews to the Alliance cause. The balance of military power shifted decisively against the remaining Council forces, but the Council leadership was not finished. In their desperation, they activated weapon systems that had been hidden for centuries. Ancient star killers began targeting Alliance worlds, threatening to destroy entire systems rather than see them free. "Sir, Council forces are deploying planet killer weapons," reported Captain Steve Hughes from his reconnaissance ship. "They are targeting the Centauri system. Over 4 billion Alliance citizens are at risk." Rachel Stone received the report aboard New Dawn with growing horror. The Council was willing to commit genocide rather than lose their grip on power. The Liberation War had become a race against time to stop mass murder. "All available ships, converge on Centauri," Rachel ordered. "We cannot let them destroy those worlds." The Alliance fleet jumped to hyperspace, racing to intercept the Council's ultimate weapons. Behind them, liberated worlds prepared for the possibility that they might not survive the day. But none regretted their choice to be free. On Earth, President Mary Johnson addressed the global population once again. The war that had started with humanity's refusal to join the Council had grown beyond anything they had imagined. "My fellow humans and our allies throughout the galaxy," Mary began, "we face a choice between freedom and extinction. The Council would rather rule over ashes than see thinking beings make their own decisions." The speech was broadcast across hundreds of worlds where liberated populations listened with hope and fear. They had tasted freedom and found it worth any price, even their lives. "We will not surrender our liberty," Mary continued. "We will not return to slavery. Whatever the cost, we will remain free." The war for galactic freedom had reached its most desperate hour. The outcome would determine whether thinking beings across the galaxy would live as slaves or die as free individuals. But one thing was certain: there would be no return to the old ways of Council control. The final battle began at Harmony Prime, the massive space station that had served as the Galactic Council's capital for 3,000 years. Admiral Gary Thompson commanded the Liberation Alliance fleet as it surrounded the station, cutting off all escape routes. "This is Admiral Thompson to all Council forces," Gary broadcast on all frequencies. "You are surrounded. Surrender now, and you will be treated fairly according to the laws of war. Continue fighting and face the consequences." The Council's remaining Loyalist fleet was pitifully small compared to the Alliance armada. Ships from hundreds of liberated worlds flew together, their crews united by a shared desire for freedom. Former enemies fought side by side, bound together by their hatred of mental slavery. Inside Harmony Prime, the last free Council members made their desperate final choice. Rather than surrender and face justice for their crimes, they decided to activate the Omega Protocol, a doomsday device hidden deep within the station's core. "If we cannot rule the galaxy, no one will," declared High Counselor Veltarin as he placed his palm on the activation scanner. "Better a dead galaxy than a free one." The Omega device was designed to create a chain reaction that would destroy all organic life within 50 light-years. Billions of beings across hundreds of worlds would die in minutes. The galaxy would become a lifeless tomb, a monument to the Council's absolute power. Engineer Lisa Davis led a joint human-alien strike team through the station's corridors, racing against time to prevent galactic genocide. The team included liberated beings from a dozen species, all working together to save their respective homeworlds. "Explosive charges set on Corridor 7, reported Corporal Frank Miller, a human demolition expert. "We can breach the core chamber, but the defenses are heavy." "Do it," Lisa ordered without hesitation. "We do not have time for subtlety." The explosion tore through the station's hull, creating a breach that led directly to the Omega device. Alliance soldiers poured through the gap, fighting past automated defenses and desperate Council guards. Every second counted as the doomsday weapon charged toward activation. Lisa reached the core chamber just as the device began its final countdown. The massive machine hummed with deadly energy, its countdown display showing less than 2 minutes until galactic destruction. She stared at the alien technology, trying to understand how to stop something designed by beings far more advanced than humans. "Doctor, can you shut it down?" asked Lieutenant Carlos Rodriguez, one of the soldiers guarding her back. "I am trying," Lisa replied, her hands flying over the control interface. The safety locks are incredibly complex. They designed this thing so it could not be stopped once activated. But Lisa had spent months studying Council technology, and she noticed something the original designers had missed. The Omega device drew power from the station's main reactor, and that reactor was controlled by systems the Alliance had captured hours earlier. "Carlos, get me a direct line to Admiral Thompson," Lisa ordered. "Thompson here," came the Admiral's voice through the communicator. "Sir, I need you to overload the station's main reactor. Full power surge through conduits 7 through 12. That will destroy half the station," Thompson warned. "Better than destroying half the galaxy," Lisa replied grimly. The power surge hit the Omega device with 30 seconds left on its countdown. Overloaded circuits exploded throughout the core chamber, sending sparks and debris flying. The countdown display flickered and died as the doomsday weapon powered down safely. Lisa collapsed against a bulkhead, exhausted but victorious. The galaxy was safe, and the Council's final act of spite had failed. With their ultimate weapon destroyed, the remaining Council forces surrendered. High Counselor Velteron was found in his private chambers, his neural implant finally removed by his own hand. For the first time in centuries, the ancient ruler could think clearly without artificial influence. "What have I done?" Velteron whispered as Alliance soldiers took him into custody. "How many lives have I destroyed in the name of order?" The fallen leader would spend his remaining years trying to make amends for millennia of oppression, but nothing could undo the damage his regime had caused. President Frank Wilson of Earth became the first elected leader of the new Galactic Federation. Unlike the old council, membership was voluntary and democratic. Each species retained complete sovereignty over their own affairs while cooperating on matters of mutual interest. "We gather today not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals," Frank announced at the Federation's founding ceremony. "No species will ever again be forced to surrender their freedom for the promise of security." Representatives from over 300 worlds applauded the declaration. The galaxy had learned the hard way that freedom was more valuable than any comfort or advantage offered by tyrants. Dr. Patricia Brown led the massive humanitarian effort to help the galaxy's former slaves recover from their ordeal. Medical teams worked around the clock to remove neural implants from billions of beings, while counselors helped them adjust to life without mental control. "The psychological damage is extensive," Patricia reported to the Federation Medical Council. "Many beings have never made an independent decision in their entire lives. They need time and support to learn how to be free." The recovery process would take generations, but it was a price gladly paid for liberty. Each successful implant removal was celebrated as a victory for the entire galaxy. The former council species struggled most with their newfound freedom. Races that had lived as willing slaves for thousands of years found independence terrifying and confusing. Some even begged to have their implants replaced, unable to cope with the responsibility of free will. But gradually, with patience and support from the human-led alliance, they began to rediscover their natural strength and independence. Ancient cultures that had been suppressed for millennia began to flourish again. Art, music, and literature exploded across the galaxy as freed minds expressed themselves for the first time. Ambassador Carl Jackson addressed the first free assembly of galactic species from the podium on New Terra, the Federation's new capital, world. Behind him, the flags of hundreds of worlds flew together in peaceful unity. 1 year ago, humanity stood alone against an empire that had enslaved the galaxy for 3,000 years. Carl began. "Today we stand together as free beings who chose cooperation over coercion, liberty over security, and truth over comfortable lies." The assembled delegates represented every corner of known space. Former enemies sat side by side, united by their shared commitment to freedom and democracy. It was not a perfect system, but it was built on the consent of the governed rather than the power of the rulers. "We have learned that diversity makes us stronger, not weaker," Carl continued. "Each species brings unique gifts to our Federation. Together we can achieve things that no single world could accomplish alone." The speech was broadcast across the galaxy, reaching beings who remembered the dark days of council rule. Many wept openly as they heard words of hope and freedom spoken without fear of punishment. The final scene took place in a park on New Terra, where children from dozens of species played together under an alien sun. Human children ran alongside, young Vorthax, Krells, and dozens of other races. These children had been born free, never knowing the fear and oppression their parents had endured. 8-year-old Emma Johnson, President Mary Johnson's daughter, played with a group of alien children near a fountain. They laughed and chased each other with the innocent joy that only children possess. To them, the idea that someone might try to control their thoughts seemed impossible and silly. "Emma, time for dinner," called her mother from across the park. The little girl waved goodbye to her friends and ran toward her mother. As she did, Mary reflected on how much the galaxy had changed. The fear and suspicion that had marked first contact with aliens was gone, replaced by genuine friendship and cooperation. "Mama, why do the grown-ups sometimes look sad when they watch us play?" Emma asked as they walked home. Mary knelt down to meet her daughter's eyes. "Because they remember a time when children like you could not play together freely. They are happy that those days are over." "Will the bad times ever come back?" Mary looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the evening sky. Somewhere up there, billions of beings were living free lives, making their own choices and following their own dreams. It had not been easy to achieve, and it would not be easy to maintain. "Not if we stay strong and remember the price of freedom," Mary promised her daughter. "Not if we never forget that liberty is worth fighting for." The galaxy was no longer united under the oppressive rule of the Council, but through the shared values of freedom, cooperation, and mutual respect. Humanity's stubborn refusal to accept diplomacy on others' terms had not only saved their own species, but liberated an entire galaxy from hidden tyranny. The stars themselves seemed brighter now, no longer cold points of light marking the boundaries of a prison, but beacons of hope pointing toward an unlimited future. The galaxy was free, and it would remain free as long as beings remembered the simple truth that no one had the right to control another's mind. The age of freedom had begun.